If you find yourself out in the cold of winter waiting for the new year to ring in, why don't you come join us in the warmth of virtual Texas? Circuit of the Americas plays host to today's race for the first time in series history. Whether the drivers love or loathe it, everyone will have to adapt. We'll find out who manages it best as we get ready to watch round 3 of the iRacing Kamel GT series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing channel. Hi, excuse me. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Sean Ambrose. Behind the scenes is our director, the Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sean, COTA is a relatively new track in the American racing scene. Introduce our viewers to F1's latest home in the U.S.
Joe, the side of Texas chokes me up a little bit every time too, buddy. Right here on the southeastern periphery of Austin city limits in central Texas, COTA was the first United States road course that was purpose-built for Formula One, opening back in 2012. Now, this track is 5.5 kilometers, yes, 3.4 miles, with 20 turns, and has 133 feet of elevation all the way there to the top of turn 1. This place was designed to replicate parts of several tracks, Silverstone, Maggots, Beckett's Chapel sequence, and encourage drivers to follow multiple racing lines. Now, the track was deliberately laid out with those wide corners to try and get that done. But the best way to get an idea of what it's like to really get around Circuit of the Americas is to hop on board the GSRC BMW Z4 for a ride around COTA. We were obligated to get one more appearance of that BMW in this season, and this is it, a magic lap. Here we go.
All right, Kevin Brown is behind the wheel of the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Turn 1 is known for this incredible uphill braking zone. Really, you can't see that sharp little apex curve until you've already started turning in, so picking all your markers is critical. Then we head back downhill into 2, which will be flat out. This leads us into the start of the S's. This series of corners makes all other road course S sections look like a quick trip down the block. Back and forth, 7 separate corners, and really you could claim 8 since this one has 2 apexes. In the end, it all comes back uphill to turn 9, where you want to hug the right as much as you can, and once you've got the angle, put your foot down and power over the top. 10's a quick left flick that you've got to hit just right, or else you're flying wide or losing time. Plus, the hairpin of 11 is a good place to sneak a pass in. But if it was me, I'd be more concerned about getting a nice wide entry and getting on the gas for the backstretch. This straightaway is going to give you a long time to think about what you've just done. If you nailed it, you can smile and take a breather. If you botched it, keep an eye on the mirror and decide if it's worth defending, because that trailing car is going to be all over you like Kevin on a piece of Gators memorabilia. 12 is really your best place to get by somebody. Sharp corner and a heavy braking zone at the end of a long stretch. Doesn't get much more tilt design than that. From here, it's all fiddly hairpins and technical corners. Cars are going to be line astern unless someone makes a mistake, which is actually terribly easy. Going wide or the rear coming around from entering too hot are both common sights. And then here with 16, 17, and 18, it just never feels like you hit the corner in the best way. They've marked it as 3 separate ones, but it's just a big, long arc. Regardless, you gotta get the car to the right because 19 drops off something fierce, and even drivers at the highest skill level tend to push wide. From there, the final corner is another slow one that requires the slow in, fast out mantra. If you can out-drag your competitor, it sets you up well for a pass into 1. But that's how you complete a lap around Circuit of the Americas. Bit of a different German car than you might be used to if you're watching the Kamel GT series, but should give you a good idea of what they're up against today, even still. Now, speaking of giving you a good idea of what's going to happen, let's go to the race details and talk to you a little bit about what the Kamel GT series includes. So, as usual, we've got a 40-minute race today, and this is round 3 of 12, with this being official racing. They do 12 race seasons. It's weekly out here every Saturday that we come to the air for this. It is open setup, which means that drivers can tweak these cars to their liking. Now, that said, with this being a retro series, most of the retro series on iRacing, they share their setups pretty freely just to try and encourage new people to come in and not feel as scared about trying the cars. Now, the points, however,
They are official iRacing points on offer. So watch out for that, as drivers will have a lot to fight for out there. And about 5 minutes left here in qualifying, which they're going to need a lot of because long laps around here, Sean. And long laps means that you're going to probably have, I imagine, a variety of opportunities to deal with traffic. So it sounds like Sean might be having a couple problems with his mic, but drivers were talking quite a bit about the zones that are good for passing and the zones that are not as good for passing out there. Some of the better ones, of course, the obvious thing is where they have long straights that drivers can try to get by one another. The Nissans do have a bit of oomph. However, when it's a long straight, you can expect these Audis to try and gain on them by the end of the straightaway, which can make it a little bit awkward. But it's the twisty bits where sometimes you have to watch out, especially the short bursts like here that we see with Franco Scurry coming through the back-to-back hairpins, where the drivers need to be very careful trying to sneak by one another. There's just not much overlap, and they can tend to trip over one another. The traffic tends to be something that offers a lot of talk on the forums pre- and post-race in the Kamel GT series. They do a lot of work to try and make sure that everybody kind of has an idea of what's safe and what is not, and communicate a whole lot amongst one another. Usually with pretty good tempers. Sometimes, though, things do get a little heated at times, but that's natural in the multi-class racing world. Right now, up at the top of qualifying, though, Keith Ritchie, no surprises there, leading Ardo Ihimaki by, oh, actually, I changed that just now. Kitty Engstrom moves up into second, but he's still a whole 7/10 back from Keith Ritchie, so Ritchie is on a tear out there for sure. And Sean, I believe we got your mic potentially sorted out here. So do you have eyes on what's going on down in the Audis in qualifying? Well, it sounds like Sean's actually still not quite got his mic quite working. So I'm taking a peek down at the Audi times, and a name that I don't recognize, John Hohenkamp, just got toppled for the pole, and by none other than last week's winner, Carl Janssen. Came in and really proved he knows how to handle these tin tops. We were used to seeing him in the Formula Renault open wheel cars. Very different style of driving, high downforce machine. Not so much in the heavy Audi four-wheel drive heavy car that really requires you to wheel it. Long braking zones in that machinery. Antti Lepisto moves up into second in the Nissans, up in the prototype class, and that's still 7/10. He was barely able to sneak past Kitty Engstrom. So this could be an easy romp for Ritchie as long as he's able to keep it on track and avoid any problems with the traffic. But it's a long race. 40 minutes is a long time for something to happen out there. Villi Ruola is back once again. He's holding down the third spot right now in qualifying with the Audis. Nobody yet to get in their second lap in the Audis. That's just how long the laps are, over 2 minutes out there. And you can see that they've still got about a minute and a half left, but that's not a whole lot of time. So if you started late, you might not get your full 2 laps in qualifying. Finn completes his second lap there, and looks like he is actually going to move himself up into second in the Audis. Most of the cars now finishing their laps, and everybody completing their warm-up here in race 3 of 12 in the iRacing Kamel GT series. Sean, it looks like you might have finally sorted. Let's give a quick sound check for you.
Boy, just in the nick of time.
All right.
Here, thanks, Joe, and sorry, everyone. Boy, a lot of great insight from me there before we got started here, huh?
I try to hold down the fort while you get yourself sorted out. Having followed this for a while, I definitely enjoy, and I've driven the Audi a bit myself. I've done a couple races, not a whole lot around here, so I'd like to at least keep up on a little of what's going on out on the course. Only 30 seconds left, though, Sean, and boy, Kitty Engstrom, we saw him last week. He's come back and proved that he is a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, indeed, and boy, what a time. Yeah, Kitty definitely going to be one to watch today, and podium possible, certainly. You know what? I'll tell you what, great weather conditions for some grip here today in both of these machines. 78 degrees on track, Joe. This is going to be a fun one here at COTA today. Regardless of what many may think in the forums, this is a beautiful facility and a great track, and they should run every race ever created here.
It is a divisive circuit, that's for sure. Some love it, some hate it. But on the pole, Keith Ritchie, I'm not sure how he feels. He's fast regardless in the Nissans by 5/10 up on Antti Lepisto, who's going to be on the outside of row 1. Kenny Engstrom will start in 3rd with Arto Iemaki starting in 4th. Jamie Hall will round out our top 5, and row 3 is completed by Rob Olenek. Nicholas Mukanos will start in 7th. Then next to him, it'll be Clayton McLeod. Martin Krejcirek will be in 9th, and John Hill begins the race in P10. Outside of the top 10, Rory Collins starts in 11th with Mike Kopak next to him in 12th. Andreas Arvanatantonis, Andreas starts in 13th with Kurt Bennett starting in 14th. John Keefe is in 15th behind them. Then it's Milt Minter Jr. starting 16th, followed by Larry Krupp. Jerry Forkolb starts in the 18th position, and the last of the Nissans to get a time in is Jim Ray in 19th. Philip Lake did not get a qualifying time and will start at the back of the Nissans.
All right, Joe, now let's take the Audi field. Carl Janssen going to start on the pole right there alongside Veli Riola. So we get the Scandinavian and the Finn there on the front row. Jacob Hohenkamp there in 3rd. 4th, going to go to Ben Laughter. Franco Scurry is going to start 5th today. Brian Shanahan 6th. Riley Thompson going to start 7th. Hideki Koifitso in 8th. And Michael Houghton in 9th. A couple of Texans making the field today. Several Texans, actually. 2 in the Audis. And we've got Kurt Bennett up there in the Nissans. Home track for us, Joe.
Yeah, nobody loves Texas more than Texans, so it doesn't surprise me that they've shown up here at their home track. As we get going now, Roof Pace Car going to lead them around the last quarter of the lap through all the twisty double hairpins. And we've triple hairpins, I guess you could say, with that final corner at the back end of the backstretch. Also could be considered a little bit more than 90 degrees. Sean, there's not a whole lot to hit in terms of walls around here, but do you think we'll see a lot of carnage out there?
Boy, I don't think so, Joe. I think this group is pretty well behaved. We've got a really strong strength of field in both classes. There's plenty of room to get things done. You've got a very long back straightaway to work with for the classes to get through each other. It takes a little bit of patience through the S's. But you know what? I think they can get it done here today, Joe, pretty clean.
Around the triple apexer, then that very difficult, one of the most unique corners, if you ask me, the penultimate turn around here. Coming down, it's off camber, it's blind, very tough to set the car because you have to whip across the track. I've seen more than my fair share of cars go wide out of there or spin and have problems through that second to last corner. The final one coming up as the Roof Pace Car peels off. Antti Lepisto following Keith Ritchie as Keith is going to set the pace, waiting for the green flag patiently. Lepisto a little bit far back, way far back. That's going to hurt him at the start. And Ritchie's all by himself. Lepisto to the outside already has Engstrom looking down, trying to take second away as they climb up the hill and break for the first corner. Things are going to accordion together. This tends to cause problems here in traffic, but everybody looks to have got through safe. Let's go to the Audis.
Janssen off to a good start. Villarola right there with him, Joe. Everybody getting off clean here early. Such a long way to get around here on this opening lap.
Yeah, the Radicals online. Audi well clear ahead. Bit of a battle for second as Rolla clears himself of Jacob Hohenkamp. And now they get single file through the S's. Not much side-by-side racing to be done through here.
Yeah, Hohenkamp really pressing on Ruola there.
Up to the top of turn 9. And then they're going to plunge back downhill through 11. up to the hairpin that leads us onto the backstretch. Could see some drivers trying to take opportunities. Are they going to try and set themselves up instead? A little bit of a peek inside by Franco Scurry. No attempts that we saw for passes, although Scurry weaving all the way out to the left side down the backstretch early.
Yeah, Scurry trying to get it dialed in here.
Obviously not wanting to give anybody a whiff of a draft down this long straightaway with the big hole. This car punches in the air. He looks to the inside of Jacob Hoenkamp. Hoenkamp gives him more than enough space at the apex, and that puts him under threat from the car of Ben Laughter, who has to work around the outside of the back and forth, the stadium section. But he's going to have to stay in position in 5th.
Laughter thinking about sticking it in there. He yields. Oh, Hoenkamp spinning it there.
Oh, wow. Almost 3 wide. Laughter comes out the worst of it as he's now on the outside of Michael Houghton. Through the triple apexer, Houghton moves himself into 5th. Meanwhile, up into 2nd position, Kitty Engstrom in the Nissans, chasing down Ante Lepisto, who has already lost a big gap on Keith Ritchie. 2 seconds between them. They're working their way through the last of the S's. As I said before, Sean, a very long lap, so at least I don't think they're going to be hitting traffic for a little bit here.
Just an update, Hoenkamp gets the pass on Scurry, heading up to turn 1, down through the S's. Hoenkamp starting to pull away just a bit. Some of that home cooking for the Texan.
Oh, close fighting there for 10th position. This is in the Nissans once again, and John Hill has unfortunately spun it out of the corner. See how this one kicked off. Hill looking to the inside, down into 11. I'm trying to figure out who that is he's fighting with. Oh, and there is just that turbo lag, man, Sean.
Yep, got him. Boy.
That was Michael Kopak that he was fighting with, by the way. As we look back at Krajcik now battling with Hill. Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, Kopak up a couple of spots here early.
He's running within the top 10, having started 12th. Not a bad start here in only 2 laps. Haven't seen quite as much action up here in the Nissans as we see in the Audis. Behind Kopak, check out this battle that we've got on screen, though. Andreas and then Philip Lake. Lake has a great run coming up the front stretch. Is he going to take a dive? Turn 1 offers a great passing opportunity. He sticks his nose in. Can he get the pull off the corner, though? That's always tricky, and you can see how Andreas comes back at him, but turn 2 is going to go the way of Philip Lake. Boy, we need to get a name for that turn 1. It is so unique. As they work their way through the S's, that moves Philip Lake into 12th place now.
No, really. Yeah, McConnell's just got by Krajcik there.
Nice job by Nick. So that's going to move Mukanos into 8th. He started this race in 9th. So only 1 position gain so far for Nick, but any position gained is a good position. Meanwhile, I'm looking back in the Audis. Brian Shanahan, who we haven't seen yet on screen, is in a nice battle with Riley Thompson. This is for 5th position.
Yeah, Joe, these two working at it for, since the start of the race, basically. Thompson up 2 spots, but Shanahan's been able to grab on and hang with him here since he got by.
Interesting. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the battle behind them was getting a little rough between Houghton, Laughter, and Koivitso. Houghton and Laughter dropped Koivitso all the way to the back of the field, and both got by without any trouble, but Koivitso just doesn't seem to be on pace here.
That doesn't seem to be a track that he likes so far. And speaking of which, an interesting tidbit about Brian Shanahan. He's told us that He has no favorite track. According to him, as soon as he has trouble with the corner, he just disdains the entire track. Oh, nice little fight here we've got with Philip Lake. And that is with John Keefe that he managed to put one over. Keefe slipping backwards in a hurry, and already Andreas on top of him. RV trying to run him down and get out of the unlucky P13. This is in the mid-pack. We haven't been seeing much in the way of action up at the front of the Nissans. Big field, though, today. Oh, meanwhile, Philip Lake was on the attack of Michael Kopak just ahead of them. So we took a peek at Richie there for a moment up at the front of the pack. Now we see Lake, who unfortunately did not get a good run down the backstretch as Kopak streaks away. But behind him, you can see John Keefe in tow. Whoa, big bobble out of the corner there from the car of Michael Kopak. Can't get the power down, and that loses him the spot to the Texaco Haviland Nissan of Philip Lake. Might be worth going back to check that out. Maybe an onboard from Kopak. This was out of the hairpin at the end of the backstretch, Sean.
Yeah, and Kopak hits that right there, gets under and crosses him over.
Nice job by Philip Lake, who started at the back of the Nissan field. Remember, he did not have a lap time. He's up to 12th, Sean. He's my charger of the race so far.
Getting it done. And, you know, in a race that hasn't seen a whole lot of movement real quick, he has managed to prevail.
Meanwhile, let's take a little bit of a look at the podium, because Ardo Iamaki started in 4th, but he has eyes on getting one higher. He's closing in on Kitty Engstrom, but he's got to worry because he's got Jamie Hall not far behind. Hall probably will want to take advantage of any sort of battle that starts to erupt, and what a great run out of that hairpin corner leading onto the backstretch. Coming down to 12, can Iamaki try and outbrake Engstrom? He's going to look to the inside, but he's a long ways back. Not a serious attempt. He's going to stay in line. Misses the apex, actually. Now into the stadium section they go, and if these guys start fighting, they're going to lose even more track of Antti Lepisto up ahead of them.
Boy, and Rob Olenek is just back there, Joe. He's got them within reach. If anybody makes a mistake, he's going to be all over it.
We'll see if we get a 3 or 4 car battle potentially here. Up for a podium position. Jamie Hall now starting to stalk the back of Ardo Iamaki as he's losing ground on Engstrom. Engstrom's picked up the pace, seeing that the fin is closed in. A little bit to the outside, maybe going for an over-under for Jamie Hall through turn 1, plunging back downhill through 2. He's right under the rear spoiler of Iamaki now, but as they head into the S's, there's just no chance for a pass. Weaving their way back and forth, left, right, and then it climbs back uphill. You can see as we ride on board with Hall in 5th place. Up and over the blind crest, then back down once again.
So hard to get that blind crest just right, Joe. These guys got it figured out.
You can see the accordion effect that these many sharp corners cause as well.
All right, we got a battle here in the Audis, Joe. Let's run to that real quick. Houghton just getting by Riley Thompson.
They're not alone, because behind them is Brian Shanahan trying to take advantage of this situation.
Yeah, Shanahan trying to get his way through too. These three have been linked up for a while here. Now starting to get a little racy. Just under 30 minutes to go. Michael Houghton up there kind of falling into their clutches again.
we don't have to go to it, but we had another change for position in the Nissans. Philip Lake moves yet up another forward past Martin Krejcik into 9th. Look at this battle in the Audis, though. Still not letting up. Thompson leading the train ahead of Shanahan and Laughter. He's got his eyes on Houghton, but Houghton is starting to pull away. Right on board with Ben Laughter in the 8th position. Boy, really putting the pressure on to Brian Shanahan. As they come up towards that blind corner, we might have a little bit of a chance to step away to check in on our leaders in the Audis. Oh, and a big problem on screen. That's Kitty Engstrom.
Sure is. Kitty's gonna get clipped here. Watch this, Joe.
He came up on the back of Hideki Koivisto, just at the wrong place and wrong time.
Well,
and tried to pull around, it looks like, when Iamaki had suddenly appeared.
Yeah, either that or when Kitty got on the brakes to slow up there, the car pulled a little bit to the left, but boy, that little bit of a twitch there gets right into Iamaki, gets Kitty all the way around. Iamaki goes for a slide and straightens her out.
Could have been so much worse. Well, that shakes things up at the top. Jamie Hall is now on the podium. Iamaki is still in 4th, and Olenek is promoted to 5th. Man, I looked away for 1 second to check and see what the gap was on our Audi leaders, and chaos breaks out.
Well, that traffic is happening, Joe. The Nissans have come around and are starting to work their way through, and so we're going to maybe see. We need to see more cars working together here if we're going to succeed.
As we watch our overall leader, Keith Ritchie, he's putting a lap on the car of Franco Scurry. So hasn't quite made his way through completely on the Audi field. Scurry currently sitting in 4th. Curious to see if this will offer some opportunities, some other opportunities beside the ones we witnessed before in the Nissans, to try and sneak by a car, use the Audis as a pick. Yamaki's going to hit some traffic right now in the form of Brian Shanahan. This could be a chance to try and get by for Rob Olenek, but nothing doing right now.
Jeez.
Both of them really just having to weave in and out. Oh, look at this battle in the Audis. That's Laughter trying to get by Riley Thompson, but Thompson almost halted at the apex as Laughter has to go off track. Oh, meanwhile, did I hear something about Philip Lake? Lake has taken a tow, so let's step away from that action to see what happened to Philip. Oh, no. Carpenter has blew his engine.
Isn't that the second week in a row we've seen that? Didn't we have a Nissan blow up last week, Joe?
I believe we did.
Oh, geez, now I can't. That's going to drive me nuts. I can't remember who that was.
Now, as we ride on board, the woodworker has found himself with an early day to rest. Unfortunate to see, especially since he was making such a great charge through the field. One thing we should clarify for our viewers new to iRacing, that's not because of him working the engine too hard, likely just downshifting a little too quickly.
Easy to do in that Nissan, Joe. You really glide through those gears very quickly in that Nissan.
Meanwhile, we're watching Carl Jansen as he's finally lapped by our leader. So there's our two class leaders together. Very briefly on track, and then you can see the pace of the Nissan. He's there and he's gone. Boy, Carl Jansen, though, coming in for Radicals Online. This is a guy that seems to really thrive in just about any car you throw him into. It's not much of a surprise. Were the Radicals Online one of the teams that made it onto Jake Sperry's top 50 list for the teams of 2017?
Oh, they certainly did, Joe. And now you're going to make me think, try and remember where they ranked.
Oh, you don't have to remember the exact number. I was just curious if they made that on there.
They did indeed.
Currently stomping the field, a whole 4-second gap, and they're not even halfway through the race. Willy Rolla, we know, is not a slouch in the Audi, so Carl Janssen putting his stamp on the Kamel GT Series. Meanwhile, do we have a slow car in the form of Michael Kopak? We did. Looks like he went a little wide at turn 11, and that opened up the opportunity for John Keefe to sneak into the top 10. They're hitting a little bit more traffic as the cars ahead of them are getting by Brian Shanahan now, catching them in a horrible place here in the stadium section.
You know, I'll tell you what, John Keefe talked about not even making this race. Surprised to see him here and doing so well. Maybe he was sandbagging for his fans out there today, Joe.
Oh, but look at him catch the Audi of Riley Thompson in an absolute atrocious spot. That's going to slow him up, and Michael Kopak wants that position back, but can't do anything in that penultimate corner. I've seen drivers sneak passes here in the final one. Not going to be the case this time around. Close fighting as they climb back up the hill. Kopak staying within the tire tracks of John Keefe. Well, yet again, not going to give an attack down into the first corner.
Rory Collins just spun it down in turn 20. He gets away clean. John Hill able to avoid him as he was coming through there.
Not the best day for Rory Collins, although he is up positions. He started in, oh, excuse me, no, he's back where he started. Wow, 3 wide action on screen. Kopak and Keefe side by side once again.
Well, they're going to run right up on Franco Scurry here, Joe. And it's going to get exciting.
Scurry read that one perfectly. He held way off the apex. You could see Kopak from that onboard. Oh, but look, it sounds like we've missed a spin. We're going to see, where was this going to happen?
Well, it's right out of the hairpin there.
It's going to say...
You're going to loop it.
Ah. Coke machine, unfortunately, out of order for that corner.
John Hill takes advantage of it, Joe, and gets by, picks up that spot.
Oh, and we've got a little bit of information on explaining Philip Lake's blown engine as we continue to watch this battle between Hill and Kopak. It sounds like he was using an H pattern, Sean.
Okay, and then it's...
Whoa! Big contact on screen between Hill and Kopak in the triple apexer as they tumble down the order. And Hill gets clobbered by Rory Collins on top of it. Let's see what happened here. As we ride on board looking back at Kopak. Oh, wow. Just closed at a rate he didn't expect. And then you can see Hill try to come back on track. Oh. Drivers always talk about, Sean, you got to watch the F3 box and make sure no cars are coming. That's a very blind corner.
Yeah, Joe. And, boy, that really ends in tears, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, boy. Poor.
Yeah, just a hard hit.
Yeah, that Hoosier, he saw him off to the left, but probably did not expect him to peel right back onto the track right there. So, unfortunately, that may cause a few DNFs for our drivers, as they have no spare cars with this being a C-Class series. But no such problems for Keith Ritchie, still leading the way now by 7.5 seconds over the Finn Antilopisto. You were talking, Sean, about the H-patter explaining the blown engine.
Oh, yeah, and you know, well, he missed the shift there. It explains it. Sometimes you just don't put that thing where it should be. And that Nissan's turning a lot of revs, and yeah, that jump from let's say fourth all the way down to first all of a sudden, or to second, may not be a good thing. Oh, Riley Thompson making a mistake there in the Audis. Brian Shanahan taking that position away. It's back there in seventh. Riley going to overshoot the turn here, Joe.
Easy to do with the long braking zones of these Audis at the end of a long straightaway. You can see he's probably thankful for the parking lot runoff at this place.
He cooked it.
So we come back live now. That tumbles him down to next to last in the Audis, which is sixth today. Only 7 showed up for today's race.
We're going to chalk it up to the holiday weekend, Joe.
I have to imagine these, with the number of tight technical sections, these cars don't really like those slow corners, so I have a feeling that might have played into it as well. Oh, Scurry going way off into turn 1. Another of the Audis having trouble with the sharper corners. Let's look at the replay. Sean, I have a feeling maybe the Audis are losing grip, maybe the tires are going away.
Maybe a little bit, Joe. Those S's can be awful tough on these tires, and of course overshooting these turns like this, and you're cooking them going up the hill and braking hard there into that hairpin. That's it. Go ahead.
I was going to say that moves him down to 6th. So excuse me, there's 9 Audis out there today, if I can count.
Yeah. Hideki's still hanging in there, buddy. He is on track, the back of this field, but it's been a bit of a struggle for Hideki Koivitso today, but he is holding down that 9th spot.
Last car racing on track gets the Dory Award today for continuing on as we watch this battle. RV and John Keefe, or no, that's Michael Kopak, I think. Excuse me, it was Keefe. Keefe coming out the victor in that fight, getting himself back into the top 10 yet again. Started this race 15th, has been a steady move forward. We have had a few DNFs along the way, but interestingly, it seems like Nissans are not the car to be in if you want to survive, as all of our DNFs are Nissans. Philip Lake, Jerry Forkolb, John Hill, and Rory Collins are out of this race.
I was watching our leader here in the Audis just getting Carl Jansen getting passed by Martin Preichik coming through there.
Yeah, now it looks like he's going to have to be overtaken by the Nissan of Andreas.
Boy, Jansen just having a magnificent drive right now. Joe got 6.5 seconds of Villarreola. A little over 15 minutes left. Some Nissans coming through, though. Got to be careful. Here comes Keefe. Arvin Tonis.
Yes, RV managed to get through in the S's as they now hit the back stretch. And Carl, as you mentioned, all by himself, really just running his own race. How about Jacob Homekamp, though? Running in 3rd. Another driver really doesn't have anybody to battle with in the GTO class, but newcomer, or at least as far as we've seen, haven't seen him a whole lot in the Audis, is faring well.
You know, he had some trouble early on off the start, Joe, and banged up that Audi pretty good on the right front, but it's turning, it's running, and it's sitting in 3rd place and having a good, quiet run. We've really not talked about him since the beginning of the race.
Another one of those Commodore machines, getting to be a popular team out there. Why don't we give you a quick top 5 rundown of each of the classes, though, going back to the Nissans. Keith Ritchie, almost 10 seconds is his gap at this point, and it's looking like another slam dunk win for him, unless something goes terribly wrong along the way. Antti Lepisto is holding down 2nd place. He started there, so no gain, no loss. Still a nice run for the Porsche Miller. Meanwhile, in 3rd, rounding out the podium, Jamie Hall, having started in 5th. A good run for him, managing to avoid the chaos to getting into that 3rd place. Ardo Yamaki is behind in fourth, about 3 seconds back from Jamie. Could still come and claim it. He started in fourth. He's still in fourth. Rob Olenek rounds out our top 5 in the GTPs. He started in sixth, so he is up 1 spot. Not a bad day for Rob. Let's go to the Audis.
Let's do it, Joe. It's been all about Carl Jansen. Sitting there up top in the lead by just over 7 seconds now. Billy Raiola, the Finn, try as he might, he's got great pace, but he sits there in second, and a podium is maybe certain if he can keep it in the gray, but a win, boy, I don't know. A lot's going to have to be done here. Now back to third, Jacob Hohenkamp. We're just talking about the Texan a moment ago. Wheeled himself here into third with a great qualifying effort, and he's held on to it, Joe. And then we got to go to Michael Houghton, biggest mover in class, up 5 spots, finds himself sitting in fourth right now. A couple of Texans there, back to having a great run here at their home track. And then fifth, going to be rounded out by Ben Laughter, who is down a spot, but you know what, has done pretty good to hang on to where he's at right now. And that's where our top 5 lies here in the Audis.
Why don't we give a little bit of love to Clayton McLeod? The number 13 is running 6th right now. He started 8th. He's gained 2 spots since the start. And I mentioned at the start of the broadcast about trying to get away from the cold. Boy, spare a thought for our Canadian friend up there, as they've had some frigid temperatures recently. So I'm wondering if he's overclocking that machine just to get a little heat in the room.
Alternating heat source. Take the cover off and overclock it. There you go.
He's got to worry, though, because Kitty Engstrom is trying to run him down. He's only 3.5 seconds back. Remember, Kitty started this race in third. He's had some trouble. So if his pace is still there, if that car is not too damaged, he could be trying to overtake the Canadian soon. "11 laps left in this 11 minutes left in this 40-minute race." I'll get it right eventually.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, everybody understood. So it is run by quickly already, 3/4 of the way through. Last race of 2017 for the iRacing Kamel GT Series, but still many races left to go in this season.
And still a couple of big ones for us to go yet today here on the Global Sim Racing channel.
Absolutely. If you've loved this retro racing so far today, this is our second of 3. The last of them is getting bumped up to Saturday since we're giving ourselves the New Year's Eve off. So Lotus 79's up next after this. If you've been enjoying this, skip back a decade and you can enjoy even more as we watch Carl Jansen continue to lead the way in the GTO class, looking for his 2nd win. And
please finish. Go ahead.
2nd win in the iRacing Kamel GT Series. What'd you notice, Sean?
I didn't mean to jump you there. I'm sorry. Hey, Radicals Online and where they ranked in Jake Sperry's top 50 iRacing teams, sim racing rankings. 17 Radicals Online there, Joe.
Out of 50, that's no mean feat. Jake, of course, very prolific journalist in the sim racing world, always putting out new articles, giving us thoughts and insight into this very interesting sport, quickly growing sport. Keith Ritchie leading the way, much like Jansen is in the GTOs. The GTPs has been unfazed. We wondered if it was going to be a clean romp for Keith. So far, it has. He's led all 15 laps. Ooh, an RV trying to get the car going. He runs it into the wall yet again.
Ouch.
What happened here? This was up at turn 9, it looks like. That blind crest you mentioned.
Yeah, again, that blind crest, so hard to get right. RV, obviously, yeah. That's not going to help that car turn at all.
And we skipped away. I'm sure RV's thankful for that before he runs into it a second time, trying to get it turned around. Oh, you can see the damage on the right side of that car, though. It is not looking good. Hopefully his pace is still good enough that he can grasp onto this 11th spot. Still a net gain, having started in 13th on the grid. Not really a whole lot of battles left out in the field. Everybody's spreading apart. We do see one between Kurt Bennett and Larry Croup in 13th and 14th. It's actually, he closes in very quickly on Croup as they try to lap the car of Villi Ruola. Through the stadium section one more time for this trio. Ruola might be able to get out of the way with ease here. He's got 7 seconds up to Jansen, 11 seconds back to Hohenkamp, so really is not in a rush. He's trying to hold to the inside as the extra downforce of these Nissans allow Larry Croup to sneak by. Then Kurt Bennett, and they've been caught by the car of Keith Ritchie, who's now going to put a lap on them.
Keith Ritchie put a lap on somebody? Are you kidding?
Well, he's got to be careful, though. A little bit of weave away from the side of the track from Bennett. No harm, no foul, though.
Hey, I'll take just a moment to say this about Keith Ritchie, though. No, I don't think anybody in this Camel community shares more than he does. Not extolling anyone's greatness over another's, but Keith, a big member of this community with his lap guides and his setups that he shares with everybody.
And there's one thing I will say about the retro communities for anybody not familiar with iRacing's retro series. It is so warm and welcoming that all these sets shared, you know it's not down to the set that's making the winners in these series, because these guys let everybody in on their secrets, and then you see them race out on the track, and boy, it is all down to just the pace that they've got in that brain, that right foot. We watch Jamie Hall in third. Ardo Yamaki has kept him honest. It's just about 3 seconds between those two for that last podium spot.
Boy, and that long straightaway is such a great spot to make up ground on somebody if you hit this hairpin just right.
Game of inches out there. If you could simply break that little bit later. Yamaki with that little bit of damage caused from when he had contact with Kitty Engstrom, which we might want to check in on, actually, because it's down to 1.2 seconds between Engstrom and McLeod now. About 5 minutes ago, that was 3 seconds. As we ride on board with Engstrom, he can see his teammate coming up in a hurry. Only 5 minutes left on the clock now. Time is running out. Kitty may have caught him, but can he pass him? This is looking like the most likely battle that we're going to see out on track. They're going to catch the lap car of Michael Houghton in the Audi. Just in a bad place there, unfortunately, right at the exit for Clayton McLeod. Slows him up out of 1. And Engstrom sneaks by easily through 2. And it is now down to half a second between them. This is again for the 6th position.
Joe, and I'm having to stay focused on Carl Jansen because he's got a lot of traffic coming through right now. With less than 5 minutes to go, this last bit of traffic going to be critical here. Oh, there you go.
But look at this battle on screen. Engstrom could have had an opportunity using the car of Jacob Hohenkamp as a pick, but unfortunately it slowed both of them up. McLeod trying to get the power down on the backstretch, and it's going to keep him safe for now, but just barely. Oh, Lepisto had a spin, and that has cut down the gap to second place. Jamie Hall looking to see if he can go one better in this race.
Hall's right there. He might be able to get him here going down into 19.
He's already got himself into third by just staying out of trouble. Could he get another spot just by keeping it clean and on the black stuff? Only a few more laps to go, and he is starting to hound the Finn. Closing in, using the draft up the hill. Lepisto goes defensive, not going to give him the inside line. Could we see an over-under, though? Hall gives it a whirl, but just not enough. Now they hit the S's. Hall falls in line, the Texaco Haviland machine stalking the Miller Porsche. They've got a little bit more traffic up ahead. And unfortunately for them, it is within their own class. That's going to be Krupp and Bennett. Come back to turn 11. Getting right up under the rear spoiler. Jamie Hall closes in. Gets himself a good exit as well. But he's just not close enough, Sean.
I think Ardo's losing ground here. Not enough time. A little over just under 3 minutes to go.
He's pushing hard. He missed the apex by a wide margin there at 12. Now they finally hit the traffic of Krupp and Bennett. Are these two going to be able to put their battle on hold for the fight for second, which gets ever so close through the stadium? Lepisto coming up to Krupp first. Has to wait behind. Looks to the inside, but breaks a little bit early. Here comes Jamie Hall around the outside of the penultimate corner. Can't quite get it done. Opportunistic stuff from the UK&I driver. 2 laps to go now. He's running out of time. He looks to the inside, but Lepisto as well, trying to put a lap on the car of Krupp. Now they finally get by. Oh, they make contact coming through turn 1.
Out.
And Jamie Hall lifts and recollects himself, and you can see on the front right of that car where they came together. All right, we've got Lepisto's spin now that kicked this all off. Where was this? Looks like turn 12, maybe? Into 13. Oh, yeah, it was 13. An unusual
13,
place to lose it.
Maybe a little bit too much brake right there. Locked it up just ever so quickly and overcorrected.
1 minute to go. We can see Keith Ritchie. He's now into that stadium section.
There's something very interesting happening here in the Audis. Michael Houghton has caught up to Jacob Honkamp. Very, very close. Just a second separates him.
Well, Jacob's got not much time that he's got to fend him off, so at least the clock is in his favor. In fact, the white flag comes out now with Keith Ritchie rounding the final corner. As he crosses the line, 1 to go. He's led every lap so far. Is he going to make it 22? Houghton is definitely trying to put the pressure on. He's got it down to 7/10 on Honkamp.
Yeah, Houghton smoked it down into 11, broke really deep. He does it again at the end of the straightaway, catches him. Here we go, turn 13 into 14.
Houghton looking to climb Jacob's ladder to see if he can get himself onto the podium. Through the stadium section they go. Holding it about 5/10, 4/10 now. Gained a lot of time through that twisty bit.
Boy, sure did.
He has got a fire lit under him. They're going to have one more lap to try and do it. A little bit of a defensive line at first down into the penultimate corner for Honkamp, starting to feel threatened.
Houghton saved it all for this, Joe.
He's right on top of him now. Could we see a dive into turn 1? He's using the draft. He's closing in. Looks to the inside. Late defensive move from Hohenkamp, trying to hold him off. And nothing doing through there. Meanwhile, we have to go to our overall leader, Keith Ritchie. He comes through the triple apexer. 2 more corners to go. A great run for Keith, as he just has one last left-hander. Out of it he comes. The line comes early here at COTA, and the win goes to Keith Ritchie. Toyota weaving in celebration. Meanwhile, Kara Jansen also has led every lap in the Audis. 10-second gap between himself and Vili Ruola. Smokes him down into turn 12, but really isn't going to hurt him at this point.
Yeah, Jansen in the final turns here, trying to complete this this run. It's been pretty perfect, Joe. Still got he's starting to drift it a little bit here. Finally letting his hair down, having a bit of fun through the stadium section one last time.
What we really need, though, is to see some of the even heavier hitters in the Audis come out to face Jansen. Still some big names in this class that we haven't seen face off with him. But it's going to be a second win out of 2 for Carl Jansen, who wins here at COTA.
All right, Houghton's going to take one last shot at getting by Hohenkamp here. In a 19, can't do it there.
I think he's a little bit too far back. Last corner, he gets close, but it's not close enough. So Jacob Hohenkamp is going to take a podium here in the Audis. A nicely done race. Vili Ruola, who we didn't give a whole lot of love to, does take second. Of course, our podiums and the Nissans are Lepisto and Hall over there. Lepisto fending off Hall late in the race. We're going to go to break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll come back with the official results as well as driver interviews. And don't go away, because on the screen we'll have all the upcoming races, the last couple that we have here in 2017 on GSRC. Welcome back to Circuit of the Americas. We just watched the last race of 2017 for the iRacing Camel GT Series. It was round 3 today, and Keith Ritchie was just unfazed by everyone. An astonishing 18-second gap at the line as he takes the win over Antti Lepisto. Jamie Hall gets himself a podium. He tried to sneak into second place, but the battle with Lepisto wound up with Hall having to back off after contact. Arto Yamaki did take a 4th place with Rob Olenek rounding out your top 5. Then Clayton McLeod did fend off Kitty Engstrom. We didn't get to follow that battle at the end, but he held on to that 6th place. Engstrom, after problems early in the race, unfortunately gave away a 3rd to finish 7th. Nicholas Mukanos was behind him in 8th with Martin Krejcik in 9th. John Keefe, he wasn't supposed to be here today, according to him, but decided he could anyways. And Keefe finishes within the top 10. 11th goes to Michael Kopak. Andreas Arvana Tantonis is in 12th, and Kurt Bennett is in 13th. Larry Krupp finishes in the 14th position. Milt Minter Jr. in 15th. And the last of our Nissans to finish the race is going to be Jim Ray in 16th. Sean?
All right, and here is how the Audis wound up today. Carl Jansen, big win for him, going away. Billy Rahola, 2nd place on the podium again for Billy. Jacob Hoenkamp with a big podium finish today, 3rd. Michael Houghton tried to get it away from him there, and, well, he'll settle for 4th. Big mover in this race, though, up 5 spots to get there. 5th, Ben Laughter. 6th, going to go to Frank Goscardi. Brian Shanahan going to finish 7th. Riley Thompson, 8th. And Hideki Koivitso had trouble just getting this race started today, and, well, going to finish down there in 9th, Joe, but it was a fun one here at Circuit of the Americas.
You can see 4 Kolb, Collins, Hill, and Lake were DNFs today. Sad for them. Car that was not a DNF. In fact, he was well ahead of everybody in his class is Carl Jansen. And we talked to him last week about what was a fantastic battle. A little bit of a different story here today. Carl, you were kind of on your own.
Yeah, I had really good speed today.
We saw a lot of talk in the forums about how different drivers felt about this track. It seemed very divisive. What are your thoughts on Kodo now that you've raced it in the Audi?
I've always liked this track. It's a good flow, I think.
Certainly seems to suit you well as you've dealt with the rest of the fields with ease here today. That number 3 is going to get a little bit more I rating under your belt. Now, next week, we're going to the track of Bathurst, which is also technical, but a lot more punishing. Do you think it's going to be a harder time for you to come away with a 3rd W?
I don't know. I like Bathurst a lot. Driven a lot of V8 supercars and stuff around there, so I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to see when the practice times get in. See where I am.
Well, we look forward to seeing how you fare over there. And again, congratulations on a dominant win today.
Thank you.
That was Carl Jansen, P1 in the GTO field. Sean, I believe you've caught up with one of our Nissans?
I have caught up with Mike Kopak here.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
Got what
Mike.
I had earlier.
Boy, a bit of a tough ride around Coda for that Nissan. But, hey, you managed a 11th place finish, pick up a spot. How you feeling about this one?
Yeah, it was a struggle. 25 incident points doesn't help. Sorry, I'm fighting a bit of a cold.
That's okay. I know it's really cold here in the Northeast, and I can relate. No problem. But what did you find most challenging here about Circuit of the Americas?
You really have to hit the S's just right. If you get a little behind on the steering, or if you happen to clip one of those curbs, it's deadly.
Yeah, those curbs, especially in the hairpins there. If you cut that just right, that'll just really upset the car and bring on a little bit of damage. Did you have to fight some of that as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had at least a little bit of nose damage. And I also have to apologize to John Hill. I kind of punted him going through the triple right-hander there. I was right up his rear end, and he tapped the brakes. I wasn't expecting him to do it, and I just launched him. So sorry, John.
Well, I'm sure he accepts that. But hey, thanks for coming on with us. Take care of that cold there, and we'll see you at Bathurst.
All right, take care, guys. Thanks.
All right, and that was Mike Kopak, one of our Nissan pilots there, Joe, and I think you've caught up with Michael Houghton.
Yeah, hopefully Houghton's got himself a cough drop on him that we could hand over to Kopak there. But Michael, it was an interesting race to watch. You were trying to pry that podium spot away from Jacob, but to no avail.
Yeah, we've been practicing most of the week, and we've been pretty similar on pace, but as soon as I catch him, passing on this track is a different story.
Now, we weren't terribly familiar with Jacob. Has he been showing up in a lot of the Camel races recently? Is he a familiar face to you?
He started with a Nissan the last few races of last season and the first race of this season. But yeah, he's a new guy on our team. He's a good driver.
It's he certainly got the pace. Getting a podium in the Audis is no mean feat. Now, we were asking some of the other drivers how they felt about Coda. What about you? Do you want to see this one back?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it at all. Once you find the line, because there are several, once you find the line that suits you best, it's a pretty fun track.
Yeah, it certainly has its moments, and it is enjoyed by a number of drivers, especially the F1 drivers in the real world seem to have fun out there. Sean, did you have any questions for Michael, having spent some time in the Audi yourself?
Michael, talk about that trip through the S's real quick. How really challenging is that, trying to dial that in with this Audi?
It's not bad. It's mostly gliding through the S's, but the most dangerous thing about it is those sleeping policemen, because those things can knock you out into outer space. So you have to be really careful.
I like that, sleeping policeman. Okay, I got that. Now, what gear are you running through there? Are you floating it through there in third?
Third gear, yeah. And then once it comes down to that tight right-hander, I shift it down to second to get a little bit more grip and turn.
Right, and then you got to get back to the left there pretty immediately. So,
yes.
Yeah, tell you what, I just love this track, having been there now and gotten to experience some racing there firsthand. A lot of different challenges here, and when they built this in mind, with putting a lot of different circuits, the great parts of a lot of different circuits in, I really think they got it right, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they have some corners right. Some of them, not so sure. But overall, I do enjoy this track. It's pretty fun.
Well, hey, buddy, thanks for coming in and chatting with us today, and we will see you next time, and maybe on the podium.
Yes, sir, and congratulations to my buddy Jake, and Happy New Year to you all.
And a very Happy New Year there to Michael Houghton. And we have caught up with Jake Hohenkamp there. There you go, Joe.
Absolutely. Mr. Hohenkamp, a podium in the Audis. So you've clearly adapted well to this, having heard that you've used to be in the Nissans. Which do you prefer between the two classes?
Oh, I'm really, really enjoying the Audi. It's a blast to drive. It's a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Have you driven the other four-wheel drive car on the service, the roof yet? Do you enjoy that extra grip that they give?
It's a whole lot different. I've always been a fan of the rear wheel drive. Getting into this Audi and learning how to control it through the turns has been a big challenge for me. But it's really rewarding when you come out on a podium. I'm very happy about that.
Now, next race is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be a 60-minute race. Do you expect that to be a problem with it being Bathurst, which tends to really punish any small mistakes?
Yeah, I think that's going to be a problem for me. Bathurst, I don't have a lot of experience on that track, and the experience I do have, it's going to require a lot of practice before next week. That's for certain.
I have no doubt on that. Well, again, you made good on this one. Congratulations on a third place.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That was Jake Hohenkamp out in the Audis, having switched over from the Nissans recently. And with that, we're going to close up here today. Of course, we want to thank a few people. Big thanks to the Camel GT community for coming together and bringing GSRC back to cover another season. We love getting to call these races. They always put on good entertainment week after week. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Sean, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Or check out our social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. Now, the next race, as we mentioned, that is Bathurst. It is an endurance race for this series. That'll be 60 minutes. It'll be Saturday, January 6th, a week from now at 12 p.m. Eastern. This is the last one that I'm going to be calling for 2017. Wow, I'm way behind. 2017 that I'll be on air at least, but I'll be directing one more for today with the SCCS. We've got those other upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.